Welcome to Mieth's masterclass on how attachment styles shape the 6 styles of love. So this is going to be a three-part video. I'll keep this as one masterclass and I'm going to upload each video separately as well. So if you wish to refer to one of those, you can. I'm going to be going over the 4 styles of attachment, which is attachment theory, and then we were going over the 6 styles of love. And then at the end, for the part 3, I'm going to show you guys how the attachment styles portray the styles of love within it. So we're going to first start off with the 4 types of attachment, and I'm going to preface this video with the fact that I'm not a psychologist or therapist. This is just my understanding of attachment theory and the styles of love. I have taken quite a lot of notes, so I'll be referring to my notes throughout this video. And whatever you do, do not place a label on yourself because you are consciously able to work on these styles. So don't feel like you're stuck in one of these styles. You may relate to one more than the other at the current moment in time, but the first step to work on that is self-awareness. So this video will help you guys become more self-aware of how you can work on becoming more securely attached. The most ideal attachment style is secure attachment. That's where everyone should work towards going towards. And a couple of other things to preface the video is attachment style doesn't change whether you love, it only changes how love is regulated. So when you are securely attached, you regulate it through safety, and if you're insecurely attached, which is the other 3 down here, it is regulated through fear. If you are in a relationship and you do intend to work on this together, it can only work if both of you agree to work on it together. So for example, if both of you recognize one of you is anxious, one of you is avoidant, and you both take the steps to recognize the patterns, honestly it's just pattern recognition. Once you recognize the patterns, it's just a matter of just breaking the patterns. You guys will work. The most common styles of relationship that tend to exist is anxious with any of the other 3, secure with any of the other 3. With avoidant, you won't really find 2 avoidants together, but you can find them with the rest. So that's quite simple. So those are the pairings, and that's that. So what I must say is, if you are in a relationship and you choose to work together on this, what you may find is one of you may find it much easier to recognize the patterns and consciously call yourself out on it, so you make much more progress at a quicker rate. As long as the other person is willing to also work on it, their pace of growth may be different. Just show patience and love, that's all it really takes. However, if one person does show a lot more growth a lot quicker and they do become more securely attached far quicker, the other person may feel slightly threatened, and that could either lead to resentment or they may just feel left behind. So that's just some stuff to preface this with. And another thing to be mentioned here is, if you are trying to heal/grow for someone else, it won't work. You can only do it for yourself. If you try to do it for someone else, you're just going to just emotionally burn yourself out, and you will be abandoning yourself in the process. You can support them, but you can't do the healing or the growth for them. So keep that in mind, and let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with the attachment styles, and we will speak about secure attachment first. So secure attachment, this is the basis of what I'm going to go off. So when it comes to a securely attached person, their core driver for relationships is connection and safety. So what that means is they want to feel connected, and they want to foster a place of safety between them and their partner. They have low levels of anxiety and high emotional availability. Low levels of anxiety basically means they don't tend to ruminate or overthink much, and they don't tend to overanalyze and look into signals, signs, etc. Their ability to resolve conflict is healthy. This is because they can hold space for their partner emotionally. So if their partner feels like they want to express themselves, they feel safe to do so. And a secure relationship can be perceived as boring to someone that is used to intensity and instability. That's because it is stable and it's quite peaceful. A securely attached person has the self-awareness, so they're able to reflect and they're able to understand how they may have contributed to their conflict, and they present their love as wanted. So their partner they're with, they show that they want them, but they don't need them. So they are good with them and without them. So their love is not necessarily possessive, it's more so just calm, grounded, emotionally nourishing in the sense that the other person feels not drained emotionally, and the passion within the relationship will grow due to that increasing safety. The dominating lifestyles in these words will seem quite, how do I say, you won't recognize it or you may not understand what it is, but we'll be breaking this down in the second part of the video. So the main ones here is eros, storage, I could be pronouncing these words wrong, agape, and pragma. And one thing I did forget to mention, these statistics here are varied. Each study can be different. I'm just basing off the one that I found. So it is not perfectly accurate. We'll just use it as the figure we run with. So roughly 50% of the population is believed to be secure. This is based on self-proclaimed, self-proclaimed assessment. So it's the person answering what they think they are, so it could be slightly inaccurate. They tend to have a positive self-view of themselves and others. So on to the next one. So the next one here we have is avoidant attachment. The rough statistic that I found is 25%. They tend to have a positive self-view of themselves and a negative view towards the people around them. The avoidant traits are commonly expressed in men, but you can find this in both genders. It's not just gender specific. And another thing I forgot to mention is attachment style is heavily influenced by your childhood. So let's carry on. The core driver of relationships for an avoidantly attached person is the fear of dependency, emotional overwhelm, and loss of autonomy. They tend to have low levels of anxiety because they have positive self-view. However, they have low expressed emotional availability. So what this means is they feel quite deeply. They have the ability to feel the emotions, but what they outwardly show towards people around them is not like they feel that emotion. So you won't be able to tell what they're going through or what they're feeling as much. As the name suggests, there is a high level of avoidance, especially when conflict arises and requires emotional closeness. This attachment style is heavily influenced by childhood, so this is primarily where they're taught to be self-reliant, so you can see this quite apparently in anyone that seems overly independent. For myself personally, from becoming self-aware of this, I realized I did portray quite a lot of avoidance and anxiousness, so that allows me to work on myself in that sense. So an avoidant person, they'll tend to be overly independent, overly self-reliant, and you may hear such things as, I'll do it myself because I know I'll get it done. That's something that I tend to say quite a lot. Because it feels like when you rely on someone else, it doesn't feel like it's guaranteed. Whereas when you rely on yourself, you feel like the outcome is guaranteed. You kind of chase certainty within yourself. They tend to bottle up their emotions and pretend it doesn't exist, so they compartmentalize. But the issue with that is, you can't run away from it forever. At one point in time, the weight of those emotions that they are hiding will come slamming down on them. And when it does, people around them won't be able to tell because they have a fear of dependency of others, so they'd rather deal with it privately and process it themselves. This style will feel contained, controlled, and safe at a distance. The dominating love styles for this one is ludus, pragma, and conditional eros. I forgot to mention, actually no, we did mention that one. So that is avoidant attachment. And then the third style we have is anxious attachment. So statistically, what I found is apparently 20%. They tend to have a negative self-view, so negative self-esteem, but they have a positive view of others. The traits are commonly expressed in women, but can also be expressed in men. The core driver for their relationship is going to be the fear of abandonment. They tend to have high anxiety, but they also have high emotional availability. And it could be argued that they have too much. That could lead to the main reason why they have so many ups and downs in the relationship. If someone is anxiously attached in a relationship, you'll notice that they have like severe highs and severe lows where they're like about to break up, but then when they're at the highs, it's like the best thing ever. So when it comes to the anxiously attached, they have high levels of anxiety. So what that looks like is rumination, overthinking, and obsessiveness essentially. They tend to feel uncertain about how their partner feels towards them, and it is heavily influenced by childhood where their nervous system is essentially stuck in fight or flight mode. So they're constantly scanning for danger, constantly scanning for signals, signs, very minute things which, for example, an avoidant would not look towards. And that's because their nervous system is basically seeking closeness for stability. Their love tends to feel intoxicating, urgent, and exhausting, often leading to emotional burnout on either end. It could be for the other partner or it could be for themselves. They have a tendency to disregard boundaries and self respect for closeness. And their dominating love styles is mania, eros, and agape. Unbounded. So we'll touch on that when we do get to the third part. Last but not least, we have fearful avoidant, or also known as disorganized, statistically believed to be 5% of the population. They tend to have a negative self-view of themselves and others. Their core driver is going to be the fear of dependency and the fear of abandonment. They have both of these going on at the same time. So this basically leads to them being highly anxious and also not being able to express their emotions. So it's a really messed up situation to be in. This style of attachment is extremely paradoxical because it portrays both ends of avoidant and anxious tendencies. For example, they demand closeness to feel safe, but the moment closeness occurs, they tend to withdraw because they feel like the closeness threatens them and their autonomy, so they don't feel like it's in their control anymore. Their love will feel magnetic, chaotic, and painful. However, they will feel that they need their partner, not want them. So they may be quite possessive. Their dominating love styles is mania, ludus, and conflicted eros. So this is the 4 main styles of attachment. Bear in mind, all of these are state driven. So if you identify with any one of these, understand you can consciously work on becoming secure. Don't feel like you're stuck in one of these because that could be the silliest thing you do. Do not put a label on yourself and then make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. A self-fulfilling prophecy is, for example, a young kid is at school, a teacher calls him stupid, so he believes he's stupid, and it becomes a prophecy which is self-fulfilling. Quite simple, to be honest. So this is the main 4 types of attachment style. Let's get on to the 6 styles of love. This is the masterclass one, so you guys will be seeing it back to back. If you do want to take some time to digest this and go on to the next part later on, go ahead. So, in terms of the 6 styles of love, there is the main 6 here. There's eros, storge, agape, ludus, pragma, and mania. Those are the 6 styles of love. So, I'm going to refer to mainly my notes here, so you guys will have to pay attention. So, let me just get over. We're going to start off with eros. So eros love is quite passionate and is romantic love. So this is what will be primarily portrayed in like movies and films, etc. It's driven by physical attraction, desire, chemistry, and idealization. It's, essentially the in-love feeling. It feels intense, embodied, and emotionally charged. The core traits of this style of love is going to be strong sexual attraction, idealization of their partner, emotional and physical closeness, and a feeling of being drawn to someone. So that is eros love. So the second one here is storge. So this is essentially friendship / compassionate love. Storge is going to grow from trust, emotional safety, and companionship. It's rooted in friendship and shared life rather than passion. So for example, let's say there's 2 very close friends from a young age. They may find that they feel a certain type of love for them, which is not necessarily passionate, but rather coming from the safety that they feel with each other. So that's what this one is. The core traits of this would be emotional safety, loyalty and stability, comfort and familiarity, and an identity of we or us. The third one we have on the list is agape. Agape is giving, nurturing, caring love without expectation of return. So essentially is quite self-sacrificial. And at its healthiest form, it is generous yet bounded, which is what you want it to be. The core traits of this style of love is going to be compassion and care, support during hardship, altruism, which is essentially selflessness, so it's not selfish, and they have emotional availability. Fourth on the list, we have ludus. Ludus is the Latin word for play. So it is a form of detached love. Ludus treats love as playful, low commitment, and emotionally non-exclusive. It prioritizes freedom and control over depth. And the core traits of this one is emotional distance, ambiguity, avoidance of commitment, and quote unquote keeping options open. On number 5 of the list, we have pragma. Pragma is the Greek word for practical. So this is practical / rational love. It is love guided by logic, compatibility, and long-term viability rather than emotions alone. So someone that has practical love, an example of this would be, let's say you see two people that get together because on one hand they recognize this person can provide me a good sort of life, and the other person sees, okay, this person can provide me with a good healthy family. That is very practical, it's not emotionally driven. So the core traits of this one is shared values and goals, stability and planning, conflict resolution, and reliability. Last but not least on the list, we have mania. Mania is obsessive and preoccupied love. It is quite intense, anxious, and consuming love marked by fear of loss and emotional dependency. The core traits of this one is rumination and jealousy, emotional highs and lows, reassurance seeking, fear of abandonment. Before we continue this video any further, drop down in the comments right now what you think each attachment style that we spoke about earlier possesses, and compare yourself later down the line in this video if you're correct or not. So actually, I just realized I've told you guys literally a couple moments ago which each one contains, so I'm gonna leave that part in the video anyway. But yeah, so essentially you can see what styles are present in each one of these attachment styles. So that is the 6 styles of love. And what I do need to mention here is, you may identify with a style of love, but you may not have the core trait of each style of love. So for example, you may have, I think, ludus, but you may not, quote unquote, keep options open. So just because the style of love is defined as that does not mean you portray each and every core trait in that style of love. I'm going to quickly take a break, and then we're going to go on to how each attachment style presents the styles of love, and we're going to go deep into in depth into that. Cool, we are back. So let's get into part 3 of this video, which we're going to be speaking about attachment styles and how each style is presented in each attachment style. So yet again, pay attention. I'm going to go through my notes, and this is going to be the screen that you guys will be dealing with. So first and foremost, I'm going to be going for the secure attachment style and the styles of love: avoidant, then anxious, then fearful avoidant / disorganized. So in a secure attached person, the styles of love and how they are presented is quite simple. They'll present eros love, and this is through their attraction. It's going to be strong but steady. The intimacy with them will deepen over time because safety increases, and their anxiety will not increase. Storge, they will have comfort, trust, and companionship. You will feel safe and desirable. With agape, you will see that they have giving and receiving, and the care will feel mutual and balanced. In terms of ludus, which is the play, it will be very minimal. They are open and they prefer clarity. In terms of pragma, it will be very strong, so it'll be quite practical. They'll have long-term outward thinking, and repair from the rupture cycles is quite natural. So they will have their conflicts and they'll resolve it. That is quite natural. In terms of mania, quite low. The emotions are very well regulated because it is a secure relationship. It's regulated through safety, and that is secure. Moving on to avoidant. In terms of avoidant, their eros style of love is going to be very strong, very heavy at the start of the relationship, can be perceived as love bombing, etc. So there's styles of that sort. It begins to fade when emotional closeness increases. That's because they don't feel safe. In terms of storage, they have it as underdeveloped or delayed. The closeness to them feels suffocating and constraining, so that kind of feels scary to them, so that is why it will be delayed or underdeveloped. In terms of agape, their care is expressed through practicality. So what that means is, someone that is avoidant, their preferred love style is usually going to be acts of service, as in that's how they provide love, because they'll they think about it quite logically. So they think, if I buy you a coffee every day, you know I love you. Or if I do this for you, you know that I love you. That's how they perceive it. So it's not going to be very emotional, and they have discomfort receiving acts of service themselves. So they present acts of service as their form of giving love, but when it is given back to them, they feel a bit taken back. In terms of ludus, very high, very high. And the reason that is because they push and pull quite a lot, because the emotional distance they gain from pushing the person away maintains their inner safety. They feel safer because they feel like they're in control of the situation. In terms of pragma, it is very strong, but it's emotionally guarded. So they know what they want and how they want to get it, but it's like it's all on their terms. Logic replaces vulnerability, so they'll think about everything from a logical standpoint rather than incorporating emotions into the logic. Mania, it is low outwardly, so they may not show themselves to be obsessive. However, it can emerge privately after distance or loss. So, for example, after they push a person away, they may feel quite obsessive, ruminate, and have loads of different thoughts quite obsessively, but only once distance is provided or the loss of their partner. So, for example, if they go through a breakup. On to the next attachment style, anxious. So, starting off with Eros, the passion is going to be intense and it's going to be amplified by uncertainty. So, if they're with an avoidant person and they push them away, their passion is going to like skyrocket, and their desire spikes when closeness feels threatened. So it makes sense. You push them away, they feel like, damn, like they feel very passionately loving, quite obsessive. Storage. So it's deeply desired, but it's fragile because it requires frequent reassurance for them to feel that it's real. So they need to be reassured basically daily, or they'll just feel like it is not consistent, it's not safe. In terms of agape, so this is where we speak about it being unbounded. They have a tendency to overgive, and that's to maintain closeness. They see themselves giving basically the lack of boundaries, lack of self respect, and gaining closeness as their form of earning love. So that's where they need to be careful and work on that. In terms of ludus, they don't really tend to play games because they hate ambiguity, they hate uncertainty, they just feel like their anxiety skyrockets when that is occurring. In terms of pragma, it is weakened during their emotional states. So if they feel emotionally threatened, they're not thinking very practically, and the logic just collapses on the fear. So when they're quite fearful, logic will not go through to them, only emotional closeness helps. So that's where an avoidant and an anxious will tend to have most of their conflict, because the anxious is speaking logic and the avoidant is speaking logic, and the anxious is just like, that's not what I need right now. But they don't communicate that because they feel like what they need should be obvious. Mania, very high. They will ruminate a lot and they will constantly be seeking reassurance. That's like their primary dominating trait. Last but not least, we have fearful avoidant. Their eros is going to be, I believe, as I did state over here, is going to be conflicted eros. So what this simply means is it's going to be explosive chemistry. It's going to be so passionate. It's going to rise and fall rapidly with all the push and pull. And that's what the eros is like. It's going to feel like the highs. Like it's basically the anxious part of the fearful avoidance. Storage, it is longed for but is mistrusted. That's because they crave closeness, but the moment closeness is given, they feel unstable. The stability that may be provided will feel unfamiliar and unsafe. So even though from a logical standpoint you can understand that is what is safe, to them, because they don't feel familiar with it, they won't be able to recognize that. Agape. So it is, for this style of attachment, it's going to be deep care followed with withdrawal. And that's because vulnerability feels threatening. So they will show extreme levels of possible self-sacrifice, but the moment they feel engulfed or overwhelmed, they're going to withdraw because they feel like there is their loss of dependency or fear of dependency, emotional overwhelm, and just loss of autonomy. Ludus. So Ludus is present, but here is present defensively. They don't use it in an offensive manner as an avoidant would. They use it to withdraw and reinstate their feeling of emotional safety. In terms of pragma, it's going to be quite inconsistent. They don't really think very practically because they swing very often between emotionally overwhelmed and being logical. In terms of mania, it's going to be high internally but suppressed. So it's going to fuel their push and pull behavior. So that is why they will seek closeness and then withdraw, go back and forth, basically go between the two like there's no tomorrow. So that is how the attachment styles, the attachment styles work alongside the 6 styles of love. If that was helpful, if you guys did learn anything, I'd appreciate if you can subscribe, share this with whoever you like if you feel like this can help them, and leave any comments down below. If you guys would like me to make more styles of content relating to this, just let me know. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in my next video. I will break this down into 3 separate videos as well, so you guys can share that if you like.